welcome Jeff. Jeff comes from Corsica, which is a little island off of France, between France and Italy. I just looked it up. It looks very intriguing to me. And he just did a PhD. Is it a PhD in parallel process? Is it? You did a big study on it anyways. No?
No,
Okay.
not a PhD.
Okay. Well, parallel process is a big interest of his. So we're delighted to have him come and share his wisdom. And Jeff lives in Corsica, as I said, and is a coach and a coaching supervisor. So welcome, Jeff. Over to you.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lily, for the introduction. So the program today, I will give you the result of what I've learned about parallel processes, and after let's done a little works in groups to know what caught your attention, if you have questions, and so on, to discuss with you. And after we will come back to the main room in order to share what you've done in little groups. I think it's clear. If you have questions, don't hesitate. I will try to share the screen. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Do you see the screen? Yeah? Great, thanks. So let's go. I will try to do it in 20 minutes. If I'm speaking too quick, just ask me to slow down. Okay, so first I will begin with a quote from Moni El-Kaim. So my work is arbitrary work that makes no claim for the truth. So this is my understanding of parallel processes based on the study of others. You will have all the link to the papers I read at the end of the presentation. So this is my view about it. So it's not the truth, but I will share what I understand in order to give you tools to deal with it, to deal with parallel process. So here is the approach. So first, I try to come back to the basics. I've read some publications, psychological ones, and I came back to 1950s, and it's therapeutical work, but you will see in this presentation, you can transpose it to coaching and supervision. So in this presentation, you will find coachee, but you can just switch to supervisor, supervisee. So it works the same. So that's a good point. Third point to this presentation, I base my study with the concept of metasystemic from the Dr. Paul Lawrence. So in order to have a low complexity, so you can use, according to me, you can use this kind of methods with groups in which you think there are parallel processes, but you should focus into the group between which persons you can have or not a parallel process. Am I clear? You tell me if you don't understand. I don't want to lose you. Okay. So 4 points. It's that in the study I've read, you can't make it happen. You can decide, oh, I want in this session a parallel process. It's not possible from the study I read. It just appears and we have to endure it, to deal with it, and we cannot predict it. So in my presentation, I will show you the theorization of practice. So I read clinical examples. I try to see what are the links between them and to propose a kind of methods to treat, identify, so define, identify, and treat the parallel processes. So you will find sentences with gaps. So I'm trying to use factual thinking and not opinion thinking. So if during a supervision session, you can fill the gap of the definition of, for example, parallel process type 1. So we will see 3 types today. So maybe you can do the hypothesis that there is a parallel process in the session. So you will find lots of criteria to say, oh, maybe it's a parallel process, maybe it's not. So last point of this approach is the most important for me, is that to treat the parallel process you will identify, you will have to adjust to the coachee or to the supervisee, to your interlocutor, to the person in front of which you are. So if you have a good alliance, you can use meta-communication. If the person you are dealing with is not so comfortable to work about himself, maybe you should use questions to not break the alliance. So if you find a parallel process, I advise you to be sure that you share an hypothesis, not the truth, in order not to be dommageable, not to hurt your coachee or your supervisee. And you can use also reflexivity. So if you are able to identify and to treat the parallel process during the session, it's amazing. If you don't succeed to do so, it's amazing too. So after the session, after the coaching session, you can analyze the session and try to identify and plan to treat the parallel process afterwards. Am I clear for you? That's fine for the moment? Yeah? Okay. So let's go to the type 1. You have an indication. It's our problem. So this is the definition of type 1. The coach has a problem similar to that of the coachee. So coach and coachee, or supervisor and supervisee, have the same kind of problem. The coach, oh, am I confused? And the coachee too. So this is a kind of illustration. So Robert, the coachee, hello Robert, has a problem. He's confused. And the coach, Jules, or the supervisor maybe, is confused too. So this is for the definition. So if you find your interlocutor has the same problem as you, maybe it's a parallel process type 1. So how do we identify the parallel process? So in all the papers I have read, there is no cerebral point of view, cerebral methods to do so. Usually the coach or the supervisor feel an unusual emotion. So it's not as, for example, you are the 4th session. Until now, it was great with your supervisee or your coachee, and now in this session you feel not at ease. So if you feel an unusual emotion, you could look if there is or not a parallel process. And if you are able to name it using the definitions, so maybe your hypothesis is good according to the result of that study. And you can do it during the session or afterwards. So for the 3 types of parallel processes I will show you today, the identification is the same. It's all about emotional. You have an emotion, a strange emotion, okay. I'm not at ease, so I will try to look at the definition if I can fill the gap and maybe make a good hypothesis. And treatment. So for the treatment of type 1, you have the same problem as the coachee, for example, and you should try to solve your own problem. So if, for example, you're confused, you should try to clarify for yourself and not trying to help the coachee clarify his problem. So if you are clarifying your point of view, the coachee will clarify it too. So this is a process from François Baltard, a French one, that you can find in the book, the great book of supervision. I don't know if you have in
English,
but
no,
I
there
can
is
give
no
a
translation.
No?
There is no translation, yeah.
Okay. So if you need, I can translate the part of the book with Google Translate if you need to do so. Okay. Any question at this time? That's fine? Okay. So I give you the example of the confusion. This is from type 1. You have 2 persons. Type 2, we have 3. So it comes from the coachee. No judgment. But the definition is the correct one. A third person behaves in a certain way towards the coachee, and the coachee behaves in a similar way towards the coach. So with the picture, it helps. So for example, here is Simon, the colleague, of Robert, the coachee, and this is Jules, the coach again. So maybe on Monday, Simon is quite aggressive with Robert. We don't know why. And Robert, maybe on Thursday, came to the coaching session and become aggressive with Jules, the coach. So we have this kind of temporality. So the identification is quite the same. Unusual emotion, and you try to find if one definition is working or not. And how do we treat this kind of parallel process? It depends. So if you have a strong alliance with your coachee, for example, you can just share your hypothesis. Oh, I think you're quite aggressive towards me, and you told me before that your boss were aggressive, or your colleague Simon had been aggressive to you at the beginning of the week. So how do you feel? What do you think about it? Do you realize that you're aggressive or not? So you can share an hypothesis. If your coachee is not quite at ease with metacommunication and so on, you can ask questions. So, okay, during this week, maybe, or at work, do you think there is someone who is aggressive towards you? And you can try to search if you can I have lost my word. Si tu peux trouver, if you can find a colleague in the surroundings who is voilà. Allez, je me concentre. Thank you, Michel. If you can find someone around which behave towards the coachee as the coachee behave towards you, it's amazing. You may have a parallel process from type 2. Okay, any question? Clear for the moment? More or less, yes? Okay. So the third one, it's coming from me. So the coachee behave in a certain way toward the third person, and the coach, you, or the supervisor, behave in a similar way towards the coachee. So that's not good for the ego, but here is an example. Robert is aggressive towards Simon. So it's the contrary, it's the opposite. This is Robert who is aggressive towards Simon. And now, Robert, at the end of the week, came to the session with his coach, Jules, and the coach became aggressive towards Robert. So if tomorrow you are a supervisor and you supervise, you can be aggressive to your supervisee. So that's why the indication was it comes from you. So for the detection, it's the same. You use your emotion, so your self-consciousness about do you feel yourself aggressive towards your supervisee or towards your coachee? And how do you treat this kind of parallel process? So you will have to focus on your posture to adopt a modeling behavior. So for example, if you're aggressive, you will have to stay calm. If you're judging, you will have not to judge. So for example, the example I want to share. So as a coach, I find myself judging really hardly my coachee, and I was not at ease with that. And I asked my coachee if, as Michel said, if around my coachee, he was judging someone else. And he answered me that he was judging his father, who was at the head of the firm, and who promised him to let him the firm, but he didn't. He wasn't willing to do so at the end. So I try all my best during the session not to judge my coachee. And at the end, when my coachee, I asked him what he liked during the session, he just answered pure non-judgment attitude. So if you try to adopt a modeling behavior, you will help the coachee adopting the same out of the session of the coaching. So it works also with supervision. So I will share you the references of this sum up. So you have Balta, you have Sears in 1955, you have Moniel Kaim and Erstein and Wallenstein. And also the conference of Paul Lawrence about metasystemic. So I try to be simple as usual. And now I propose you, if you don't have question right now, to go in small groups to share between each other what you remember from this presentation, to list your question if you have some, and try to resolve your question, to answer your question in the small group, and find out what resonates. Do you think what I show you today could have been helpful in your sessions as a coach or supervisor or not? Do you think maybe you will try to use it or not? And then we will go back to the main session to share your experiences of the small groups and ask your question if you need answers. So that's okay for me, Lily. I think, how many are we? We are 30. Maybe small groups with 4 people can be great.
Okay, and 20 minutes, you say?
Yes.
Okay, all right, it's ready. Any questions before we open the rooms? All right, here we go, 20 minutes.
See you soon. So, welcome back. So, Lily, I don't know how you proceed, but if everybody is okay, I propose you to just pop up and ask your questions or share your experience about the group discussion. Don't be shy. Please ask me tricky questions. Lily has just done so, and it was quite interesting to reflect, how can I say that? To search with her solutions and to those questions. So help yourself.
I can start us off. Thanks very much for your presentation. It was great. Our conversation, a lot of people in the group were new to it, and we were just kind of grappling with some of the concepts. My personal question was just if you had done any research or had any resources that you could think of that are more related. So this was about one-on-one, and I'm just wondering if you have anything about teams, because then, you know, it seems there's lots of parallel processes that are going on, and I'm curious if you did any research into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. So if you're new to it, try to, when you have a session and you don't feel at ease after a session, to try to see if you find you can fill the gap of the definition of type 1, type 2, type 3. I have not done researches for teams, but the last training about parallel process I've done, someone came with a team coaching issue, and we tried to apply the definition to his case. I can't remember what was the end of our reflections, but I just suggest that you how can I say that? Just draw the team's member. Don't. How can I say that? Wait. You should represent each team members from one team and from another, and try to see between who and who you can find, you can apply a definition. So I have tried on one case, it works, but if you have team coaching issue, we can take a time and discuss in order to see together if we can apply a definition or not. And once you have done it, you can do it yourself, I think.
Okay, thanks very much.
May I say something?
Yeah.
You know, Larissa, you know how I see the team. The team is a set of people. It's a set of interaction, but it's also a single entity. And so there is a transference, there is a parallel process, and there is a transference between that single entity and the coach, or yeah, there is a team. I mean, the team is behaving sometimes as a single entity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you.
So, so in all
I think
this work,
Samuel is trying to say something. Samuel? Hmm? No, you were.
I just wanted to reinforce what Michelle is saying, that if we're working with organizations, we have to know this material because the parallel process, let's say for an executive, it is very likely related to the human resource department, the CEO, whoever it might be. And we have to pay attention to where the emotion, the triggering, the whatever is coming from. And it easily might not be our direct client. So if we just use coaching tools to positivity for the client, right? We're going to make a mess of it because it can't be solved that way. It can be understood better through parallel process, and then find out with the client how to navigate in the midst of that. So when we teach team coaching without this level of thinking, the coach is just going to use some nice coaching tricks and techniques they learned in their team coaching brief workshop, and they're going to create a mess. I'm very concerned about this.
Mm. And to answer to Michel and to you, in all the stuff I presented to you today, I don't consider the group as an entity, but I consider each person, and there is no conception of the group. We have just a collection of individuals. Please don't believe me. Please don't agree with me, but that's the kind of hypothesis I put at the beginning. So you don't look to groups, you look only to individuals. And maybe an individual who belongs to one group may have a relation to an individual and a person who belongs to the other one. And after, you say something very important, Samuel, is that about emotion. And as I share you today, how we detect a parallel process from a CEO's exchange one exchange, it's all about emotional consciousness. So the more you're self-conscious, the more you will be able to find maybe a parallel process. And if you work with relational material, so if there is a parallel process and you try to work with it, it will really, you will, I think, solve the real problem. If you try to solve a problem, but the problem is in the relationship and you don't see it, you won't go further and you won't solve it. It will be same. It will be here too at the same at the end of the session. So it's quite, for me, it's quite powerful. It's really difficult, but my belief is that if we practice reflexivity with our sessions, using this definition, at the end we'll be able to solve them or not.
I think Samia was trying to add something too.
Yeah, thank you. I was just want to add that the parallel process has to be added with the transfer and counter transfer. So they go together. One is related to the here and now with the system and the individual, and the other system as a team. And the other one, I mean, parallel process, transfer and counter transfer is more individual and more emotional. And it's about the story life of each people in the past who pop up here and now. So the two processes are mixed, and one is more individual, and the other is more organization, like from organizations. I mean, like a team and the system, the organization. That's what I want to add.
I would like to continue this discussion with you in another time and space, because I am not able to explain it in English, but according to me, that was a discussion we had with Lily. Transfer and counter transfer can be sometimes we can have a parallel process, but we can have parallel process without transferred and counter transferred. So, and you put the focus on something. It's really, really, really important for me, is that we have lots of definitions, lots of concepts, reflection process, parallel process, group process, transfer and counter transference, and it's quite difficult to trouver ces petits, to understand
sort that
something.
Or to have
Yes.
clarity, just
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. To have clarity, yes. So I strongly advise you to try to find new definitions to make yours and to try to show if they help you in during your session afterwards. Because I will try to you can ask other question, and I will try to find all the question I had in the last training, but they asked me if transference and countertransference was always or not, and we had a discussion, but try to find concrete examples and to show if the definition applied to their concrete examples. And don't fall into the trap of hypothetical cases, because we touch to sophistic. Is it the same in English? Sophistic, la sophistic?
Sophistication.
Yeah,
complexity.
sophistication. So if you think about concepts, you will be able to find or not solutions, methods, but after my question is, do those methods apply to your experience of life or not? And I suggest you to write examples you have had and try to analyze them in order to see if maybe it's counter-transference and transference, or maybe it's parallel process or not, or maybe it's other stuff. And yes, theorize your practice, and not practice your theorize. Pas si je suis très clair. You know, because if we work with concepts, we can fall in the trap of trying to deal with reality to make them into the concepts. Okay. One last question.
I have a last question,
Yeah.
Jean-Francois, because Samia brought up in our group this sense of obligation to really understand and know the distinctions that you're talking about. So for me, in terms of supervision and being a supervisor, we have, I would say, a certain degree of ethical obligation to really know what we're doing when we're working with groups and with individuals, and that awareness, I mean, even before we get to the point of trying to solve something, is to really even be aware and recognize those distinctions and the dynamics, you know, of the blind spots, I think Samia was talking about, that are there, and you can't see all of it every time, all the time, but it's a great responsibility.
Yeah,
So,
we are like surgeons. We have to know what we do.
So please don't kill me. But my question is, do you allow everybody, yeah, do you allow you not to be aware? And I think even if we should have ethical obligation. My question is, do we allow ourselves not to be able to always fit the ethical obligations? I think the most important is not to always fit ethical obligation, but to have the attitude of analyzing, oh, did I succeed? Great. I fall. Okay, that's okay. What can I do to make it better then? Somebody disagree? No?
I don't disagree, but I think this is a dimension of supervision that is not explained or taught to other coaches. This element is really, really important. And I think it's just bypassed when people even explain what supervision is like and what it's about and how necessary it really is.
Thank you. Lily, I give you back
Thank you,
to the conclusion.
Jeff. It is amazing that you try and explain parallel process in 60 minutes or 20 minutes, actually. I think it's like an ongoing conversation that our community needs to have, because as many of us noted, it's pretty important, and I think it's one of those distinguishers of coaching versus supervision and the work that needs to be done in that space. So thank you. Thank you so much. This is going to be interesting because next month, July 15th, we have a speaker from the Solution Focused Academy coming to talk. And they have I think, a belief that parallel process may not be as important as we think it is. So it promises to be a very provocative conversation. Please do come and join that conversation. And then in August, on August the 19th, Lynn Harrison and Martine will come and talk about some research that they did around transformational learning, setting the conditions for transformational learning. And that is on August the 19th, same room, same time. Please come and join us. Thank you, everybody. Nice to see new faces, returning faces. See you all next month. Thank you, Jeff.
See you. Thank you. See you.